good morning, everyone, and welcome once again to our SonRise Project weekly call. We are so grateful to have this safe space filled with love and compassion and our mutual desire to heal ourselves and our families. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday week and some love and gratitude with our families and loved ones and friends. And I am so grateful to have a dear friend back today, Corey Minor Smith, with us. Corey has been with us many, many times, and she is phenomenal. Let me tell you a little bit about who she is before we jump into today's conversation. Corey Minor Smith has been navigating the mental health space for over 30 years. It's been central to her personal and professional evolution, and it shapes her perspective and led her to want to champion for others who are caregivers for those living with severe mental health challenges. She is an attorney. She holds a master's in education, guidance, and counseling. And she's also a trained facilitator of the National Alliance on Mental Health, otherwise known as NAMI. And her passion for social justice, especially in the mental health realm, stems from her turbulent upbringing, which we will hear about this morning. So I'm not going to give it all away. Corey's lived experience and her personal passion to really transition from pain to power and purpose is what has led her to here today. And again, like I mentioned, she's been with us for many times in the past. Corey is also an author, where she self-published her own highly celebrated book called Driven, hashtag Driven. And it's a book virtually drawn from her veins and shaped by her heart. And it's used as a resource for family and friends that have loved ones living with severe mental illness. She has shared her story on many national platforms, including The Breakfast Club, the Audible Original, We've Got Answers, Rolling Out, Forbes, The Karen Hunter Show, in addition to many, many, many other news programs and podcasts. And she made history by becoming the first African American City Council at large member pushing for social justice. And at the end of the day, Corey and her willingness to be here this morning is really all about helping people turn, as I mentioned, their problems into power. So we are super happy to have Corey Minor Smith back with us this morning. She has two incredible sons. We'll hear about them in a moment, two adult sons. And she has been doing this for many years. When I say doing this, our topic for today is caregiving as part of the sandwich generation. So, welcome back, Corey, and thank you for getting up early and being here with us this morning.
Absolutely, Kelly. It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me and having me on today. This is a very special topic, and as you all know, November is National Family Caregiver Month. So,
Hmm.
for many of us, it's a year-round thing, but it's great to have recognition for different months, days, and weeks that we tend to do in the United States to highlight
Exactly.
and amplify, whether it's mental health and other things that people do that go unrecognized, quite
Yes.
honestly.
Yes, and you have been doing this for many, many, many years. So I'd love to start by you sharing your story as an Ohio homegirl. We, didn't know each other back then, but I had
Right.
the pleasure of meeting you several years ago, and your short story is just phenomenal. So can you share with everyone this morning your background and your journey?
Sure. I'll just jump to the caregiving part of it all. My mother lives with schizophrenia and what is now known as bipolar disorder. When she was first diagnosed, I was around 15 years old, and I was the one who was home with her when she had her, I can't say it was her first, but a psychotic episode that led me to call for help. And I want to just touch on that for a moment because statistics show that like 1.4 million children are caregivers in our country. And I don't think we
Really?
realize, yeah, how much children are thrown into these roles within the home without knowing a name for it, like
Mm-hmm.
caregiving, where they are the ones responsible for their siblings because their mother or guardian has to work two or three jobs and
Mm-hmm.
they are the older ones. And
Mm-hmm.
just recently, I've seen a lot of highlights of celebrities who serve in a caregiving role for a family member. And one that really struck me was Emmett Smith. And
Mm.
he shared that he was around 9 or 10 years old when he was the one that was called upon to spend the nights with his grandmother because he was the oldest child. So he would be
Wow.
the one to go over and help his grandmother by staying the night. And so it made me think about so many children who are in roles of taking care of their siblings, getting everybody up and ready. And then I was just recently asked, like, somebody thought I could cook well, right? It's Thanksgiving, so you make something. But I did something. And it was like, well, how do you know how to cook? Like, when did you learn how to cook? And I'm like, I was cooking for myself at least first definitely by second grade. So how old
Wow.
is that? How old
Right.
is that? Like
Like
7?
9?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's 8 or 9,
8.
maybe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and being responsible for getting myself to school and things of that nature. But children have a significant role that is sometimes overlooked. I've heard news
Mm-hmm.
reports where a child called 911 because they saw grandpa laid out on the floor, and a child may have been the one who attempted CPR or helped grandma or
Mm-hmm.
mom get out of the burning home. That was a recent report.
Mm.
And so I'm focusing on children because I was a child when I had to get help for my mother.
You
And
were
I didn't
14,
15,
14,
yeah, because I just
15.
recently had to go back in time and like calculate how where was I? Because I've said like I was between
Mm-hmm.
13, 14. Anyway, teenager, right? But 15 for
Mm-hmm.
sure, when my mother was first diagnosed. And the true caregiving that I feel happened my sophomore year in college when my mother asked to live with me. I was a
Mm.
student. I had just moved off campus, my first apartment off campus. And,
Mm.
like most students don't even want to live with their parents, period, when they're in college. Like it's your
Exactly.
first time to learn life.
Exactly.
But for me, I felt like I couldn't say no because she's my mom and I'm her only child. And I
Yes.
didn't know what I was getting myself into. She asked and I let
Mm-hmm.
her. And I recently thought about that as well because this was like not that long um, before she had left me in a whole nother state in Texas and she moved back to Ohio. She had attacked me and I was in the system and going to court and ultimately having my grandmother take custody of me. And it may have been a year or two later where she asked to live with me, and without question, I said yes. But ultimately, that led to me seeing firsthand her symptoms gone untreated and what that would mean. At that time, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what it meant in terms of it being a lifetime commitment to be
Mm-hmm.
helping her through drug addiction, through prostitution, through incarceration, through
Mm.
institutionalization, and then I becoming a mother my senior year in college. And
Wow.
so I started the sandwich generation um, at the age of 21,
Wow.
in that I was taking care of my mother
Mm.
and now had a son and I was in college.
Wow. That's a lot. And you did it with such grace and staying in a space that when you said, of course, I'll do it. I think many people in your situation may not have said, of course. And you said, yes, it's my mother. Of course you can live with me. But you also shared something I hadn't known from before when you said you were dealing with your mom, incarceration, prostitution, drug addiction. How did you find support, or how did you deal with all of that? Being a young person yourself, you're in your early 20s, you have a child, you're in school. How did you either find support or resources, or what did you draw on to do those things?
Uh, it wasn't just me, like it's calling whoever would answer the phone many times, um,
Hmm.
with it was a very scary situation in terms of how I came to learn of my mom's drug use. I had
Hmm.
just started law school, and
Hmm.
at that time, my mother, my when I got married, I got married right before I started law school, and my mom's sister, she was like, "It's time for you to be able to live your own life."
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so my mom went back to Canton, Ohio, but that's when the drugs started, and I got a frantic call to tell me that my mom was attacked, and she was
Hmm.
hurt very badly. She was cut across her neck, all over her hands because she was trying to, fight off her attacker who was attacking her
Hmm.
with a knife. And I remember,
Hmm.
calling the police and, demanding an investigation. I'm in criminal law classes now, and I'm thinking I know
Wow.
everything.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna help
Uh-huh.
my mom. And I remember getting the call from the detective telling me that they were not going to pursue it any further because it was drug related. And I'm like, drug related? And why does that prevent you from, addressing this situation where my mother was
Right.
brutally attacked, but they weren't going to prosecute? Um, but that's when I learned and how I learned that my mother was on crack. And
Wow.
it was very, very, very bad. So once I
Hmm.
did graduate from law school and I moved to Canton, I was more involved with my mom and making sure she was okay with the services that were
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
community. And ultimately, I was the one who went to get her off the street, because I
Wow.
had to see it for myself. People were telling me, your mom's out here, she's selling, food, selling whatever, because I didn't want to give her the money, for fear that she was just going to use the money
Hmm.
to buy drugs. And I didn't want to, I had to stop like buying her the food and stuff because she was selling that. And ultimately
Hmm.
she was selling her body
Hmm.
for the drugs. As an attorney, I represented my mother in court.
Wow.
And there's just a lot of different things and that I openly talk about in hashtag driven as well. But having family that you can call upon is helpful, but family that get overwhelmed or dealing with severe mental illness, you're dealing with hallucinations and delusions. And unfortunately,
Hmm.
a lot of my moms are of her family. And so it's like
Hmm.
ostracizes people. It, causes concern because some of these are very, very serious and dangerous allegations that my mom makes
Hmm.
about
Hmm.
people. And she makes them about me as well, but something in me, I just can't not help her. I
Right.
can't
Right.
not go check on her.
Right. Where is she now, Corey?
Canton. So I'm,
She's in Texas.
there's different types of
Mental.
caregivers,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
I'm a
Yes.
long distance caregiver now that I'm in DC and my mother is in Canton, Ohio. And so I was
Hmm.
just recently there and I left. I'm smiling because ultimately I had to not think about the stress and strain of this one activity that I had to do, which was to get the gas meter read.
Oh my
Don't we all
goodness.
have to do that at some
We
point?
do.
The gas
Yes.
company has
Uh-huh.
to come to read the meter.
Hmm.
And for
Right.
some caregivers who perhaps has a loved one with dementia or Alzheimer's, they are fully doing all the ADLs, the activities
Hmm.
of daily living on behalf of a person because they physically can't move about,
Mm-hmm.
bathe themselves, feed themselves, things of that nature. My mom is physically able to do things. And it's the things that she's physically able to do that causes a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
stress and overwhelm, like damaging
Yes.
the property, not
Wow.
answering the door. Um, she doesn't have a phone. So my only way of communicating with her is if she calls me or if I go to the house. But with the gas meter, I was very grateful. I was already going to be in Ohio because I had a
Mm-hmm.
meeting in Toledo. So usually when I'm in Ohio, I will go to Canton. And the gas company is a new gas company, and they gave me an appointment that was right when I was already going to be there. So just small wins like that are just, it was so, I was
Yes.
so grateful. But then the next step was getting into the house because I don't just, unlock the door because I have the key. I give her respect, her privacy, her, autonomy. But that gas meter needed to be read. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
usually will go knock on the door before the day before anything. I'm letting her know that I'm in town and I'll leave a note if she's not there so that
Mm-hmm.
she can call me, or just know that I'm going to come back. And in this case,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't answer the door. That day, I went multiple times, even at night, no lights.
Oh, wow.
And so I went back the next day hoping, and this is all like silent stress that's like building up. Like, oh
Yes.
my God, is she going to answer
Yeah.
the door? Is this going to get done? I can't afford for them to, reschedule or turn the gas off because I can't come back here
Mm-hmm.
again before December
Mm-hmm.
7th. So I'm trying to keep myself calm with all of those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, it worked out. And all I could do was just thank God because even though it was so stressful, the gas representative came back multiple times. She was so
That's a
cooperative.
blessing.
She asked her supervisor, what she could do because she could have got a penalty if she didn't complete the assignment within the time frame. 12 to 4 was
Mm-hmm.
the time frame. And
Mm-hmm.
she called her supervisor and they allowed her to make it an all-day appointment. So it wouldn't be a penalty against
What a
her for not
blessing.
getting it done before 4. Then my uncle was off work and he was able to come because my family has started to be concerned of me going to the house by myself. My mother is starting to like have a knife. Uh,
Oh.
she's damaging the house, like breaking the windows. I have to get the windows replaced. It's been multiple times at this point, and we've put in
Mm.
plexiglass windows that thinking that, it'd be harder for her to
Mm-hmm.
break these. But when I was there, that's another part of the stress because I'm like, we just replaced these windows and they're already broke
Mm-hmm.
again. Um,
Right.
but ultimately, I had to call a locksmith because I had to get in the house and get the gas meter read because the bigger consequence
Mm-hmm.
was having the gas turned off.
Right.
And
And
she
it's
was
like a
just going to have
blizzard
to
in
get
Ohio.
upset. Yeah,
It's
she was just
cold
going
in
to have to
Ohio.
get upset if she was there and just wasn't answering the door, or if she came home while we were doing, reading the meter.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to get everybody in and out, so we just quickly went in and
Yeah.
quickly departed. But having those types of tasks completed and being a long distance caregiver can be challenging, but if
Absolutely.
you have to be open to letting people know what's going on and to receiving the help that people are willing to give. Sometimes we're
Mm.
embarrassed and ashamed or don't want to let people know what's going on, or in my case, it could be it's not, but it could be embarrassing for people to see the state of my mom's home. um,
Yes.
but I started showing it myself because I feel that it's helpful for people who are living with a loved one, have a loved one that they're caring for, trying to love and support, um, to see what happens with untreated severe mental illness.
Right. Which
Um,
is different than any mental illness. It's the severe and what you're dealing with, and especially doing it from afar. And I want to talk about I just want to say, like, I just think what you're doing is amazing. And the fact that you've been dealing with this for over 30 years. I remember when you were here in early 2020, you talked a lot about acceptance. And you just mentioned this acceptance. You talked about not being ashamed. You talked about, because we talked a lot about shame and guilt and all these things, but it was acceptance, not being ashamed. I think you talked about acknowledgement
Mm-hmm.
and being an advocate.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love for you, and I'm remembering this because I'm in the middle of something similar, newly though, new, and working through all of those pieces of acknowledging it, accepting it, no shame about it, but the advocacy. And I'd
Mm-hmm.
love for you to talk about the advocacy part of it and being an attorney and how, and also link it back to your children. Because at some point I know you were speaking, I remember you also shared about your sons. And
Mm-hmm.
many of us have children or grown people who are children still, but there are
Yeah.
children who might be dealing with their own challenges, and you were dealing with both at the same time. So my question, two-part, is about the importance of advocacy and how we as caregivers can be that ally and advocate, both for our parents and our young people. So
Yes.
that's an important piece I remember you talking about.
Yes, the AAA strategy.
Yes, I
And I
remember.
think you added another A to it. We have to go back to that recording. But the AAA strategy is acknowledging. We have to acknowledge that illness,
Hmm.
especially severe mental illness, is real.
Yes.
Unfortunately, a lot of people, once encountering a loved one with severe mental illness, especially like maybe the first psychotic break or um, just the signs before they even actually have an episode, can make a person think, are they on drugs? Are they, drinking, or it's their attention seeking, or whatever it is. So just acknowledging that severe mental illness is real. And when you are
Yes.
able to acknowledge it, you can then, or whatever the ailment is,
Hmm.
that is real. And then accepting that your loved
Hmm.
one may never be who you expected them to be. They may never be able to fill
Yeah.
the role that you
Yeah.
expect them to fill in your life. In my case, my mother, right? We have these images of what a mother is supposed to be to the child. A lot of my images don't represent that, the way society presents the
Mm,
mother,
mhm,
things that we want our mother to be in any time in our life, like getting, for women, having your first period and not knowing
mhm,
what it is when you encounter it
mhm,
for the first time. Who's there with you to help you know what
mhm,
to do? In my case, it wasn't my mother, right?
mm,
Who's there with you when having your child, maybe, or you're going to
mhm,
prom, or your wedding, or all these different events in our life? Who's there? You might expect your mother
mhm.
to be there, right?
Right.
For your children, you may have plans for them in terms of going to school or having a certain career, or you invest all this, maybe private school and all these things for them when they're younger, with the goal of them getting into an Ivy League, or
Mhm, mhm,
having becoming a doctor or an attorney or whatever it is. But if they, you know, have severe mental illness that impacts them
mhm.
in such a way that they are no longer able to do those things, we have to accept that and help them
Right.
to have the highest quality of life that may be possible with their
Mhm.
illness.
Right.
And then the advocacy is taking the acknowledgement,
Yes.
is taking the acceptance and channeling that to help
Mhm,
with the resources that may be needed to help your loved one. Making sure that, speaking out, using your voice in whatever way that
mhm,
you find can be beneficial not only for your loved one and your
Right.
family, but other families. And by,
Right.
doing your program and, being on the
Hmm.
Breakfast Club, it helped to connect me to what I call like my tribe because I didn't know
Yes.
of
Yes.
organizations like the Treatment Advocacy Center, who specifically talks about severe mental illness. I didn't know
Hmm.
about, there's just so many organizations that focus on schizophrenia specifically and severe mental illness specifically, and they're doing things
Yes.
at the federal level, the state level, and trying to change policies and laws to help people
Hmm.
who are living with severe mental illness. And
Right.
so
And when
when
you
we
were here
advocate,
back
we
in,
can do
I'm
that.
sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
No,
When
please
we
finish.
advocate, we can amplify it and work as a collective to
Right.
have things to affect change in our country.
Yes. Yes. When you first came on, I remember 988 had not
Hmm.
been started yet, and it was coming that July. And it has been such a huge help for so many people,
Right.
including myself, and not only for suicide prevention, but it's a lifeline. You don't want to call the
Yeah.
police,
Right.
your son and say, I'm not really sure where he is, which has happened to me in the past. That
Hmm.
would have been a wonderful tool.
Hmm.
But share how are your sons doing? Because I remember you sharing about them back in the day. That's what, 5 years ago. How
Yeah.
are they?
Well, they are like fully grown-ups now. My oldest is 30 and my youngest is 23. They just turned those respective ages in this month,
Amazing.
this month,
Uh-huh.
November 2nd and November 5th. So it's just amazing to see them and uh navigating life.
Yes.
And then trying to be there to support both of them. Um,
Yes.
the things that are happening in this country is like, raising concerns. These are things that they have never faced before.
Yes.
Maybe read about things and as well as I wasn't here during the civil rights movement or anything like that,
Hmm.
but to see this
Hmm.
stuff playing out in real time right now, um, and then them questioning their future, that's difficult to witness or handle or try to address
Yes.
for them.
Yes. And I wanted to ask you about that because I was going to ask about guardianship and to see
Yes.
both on your parent, your mom, and on your children, how important that was or not. But I see a hand up.
Mhm.
So I would definitely want to have Nikki, feel free to share if you have something on your mind you want to share, or if you have a question for
Yes,
Corey. Good
thank you.
morning.
Thank you. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Corey. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Good
Thank you
morning.
so much for this story. I mean, from the very moment you started sharing, I wanted to ask, Dr. Nadine Burke talks about these adverse childhood experiences, right? And when I listened to you, I thought about, I mean, obviously, we all reflect on ourselves, like in our lives, like where did this show up? And the first thing that came up was adverse childhood experiences, right? She's got these
Mhm.
10 questions. I remember answering them for myself, but inside the 10 questions, like another three, four questions, I was like, I got a 15 out of 10. How is that possible, right? Like, I am severely traumatized by my childhood and all the experience that I endured, like the
Yeah.
ultimate addictions at every level in my family. And so I'm listening to you and I'm like, sis, what is your mechanism for support? I mean, I know you said their organization, like, but like on a day to day, like I
Yeah.
know what it's like to be worried about my child, but to be in the middle, like we all are, because I got a 12-year-old, God help me, and a 28-year-old. And it's like, how am I, and a mom who's 75, like,
Yeah.
how are we managing it? Like, what is your method of support? And what do you suggest? Like if someone is in that position or similar, I'm listening to you and I'm going, woo, the Black woman is
Yeah.
strong and fragile at the
Yes.
same time.
At
And
the
how
same
are we
time.
walking the line to maintain our own sanity?
Amen. Amen. Oof.
Yeah, that was my response. That's what I said. Oh,
Yeah.
Lord, that's
A-
a big one.
As
Hmm.
my youngest son would say, oof. But yes, adverse childhood experiences, I truly appreciate you bringing that up because I went through since high school, and hashtag driven is built upon undesirable circumstances from an educator that helped me to fill out my scholarship applications and in college applications. Her name was Norma Washington. She knew about my life. Seemed to know more about me than I knew about myself in high school. And she told me I had undesirable circumstances. And I turned that two-word phrase into my life motto. Don't allow undesirable circumstances to be excuses for you to fail, but allow them to be reasons for you to excel. But I
Say it
bring that
again, say it again, say it again. That is so powerful. Say it again. That was beautiful.
don't
Hmm.
allow undesirable circumstances to be excuses for you to fail, but allow them to be reasons for you to excel. And it wasn't until I was well into my legal career, I went to a conference, and Dr. Wendy Ellis, she was with the Milken Institute in Washington, D.C. Um, she talked about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And I'm like, well, that sounds like something
Hmm.
that I should know more about. And I remember my first
Hmm.
time in the studio at the Breakfast Club, I brought this up too, the undesirable excuse me, the adverse childhood experiences. And I had the wonderful opportunity before she passed, Miss Norma Washington, to talk to her about, the undesirable circumstances. And I wanted to know if she knew about average childhood
Hmm.
experience, because I'm like, why didn't you just say average? But it
Hmm.
was unique that she said undesirable
But
circumstances.
yeah.
But it wasn't until just a few months ago, I had a doctor on, Dr. Tori, who her focus is ACEs. And I found her
Hmm.
on Instagram, and I invited her to come
Hmm.
onto my program, Mental Wealth Wednesdays. And I vowed to myself, I am going to do this test. What is my ACEs score? Because I didn't know it. It was like, I don't want to say I was avoiding it, but I just never took the time to take the little test and
Hmm.
see what my score was. But I was determined to do it before I had the interview with Dr. Tori. And I can't remember what my score is now. It is high. Uh, as described, the 10 questions, I'm sure it was like a 9 or something like that. But if I did more questions, it was definitely been higher. So to answer your question, and thank you for that question, my support comes from faith. Faith is my first principle of hashtag driven. Faith, determination, motivation, preparation, and action. But faith, and faith being prayer. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, who I ultimately lived with after at least 14 schools, moving at least 21 times before my sophomore year in high school in 3 states.
Hmm.
She would pray, right? Like, I literally slept in the same bed with my grandmother throughout high school, like when I lived with her. So I just feel
Yeah.
like I have a part of her with me. But she, closing out every prayer was to protect me from all hurt, harm, and danger, seen and unseen. And to this
I
day, I
love
feel like
that.
it's a guiding light for me, because there are so
Yes.
many things going on in this world. And even with dealing with my mother, she could at any time
Hmm.
attack me. And
Hmm.
recently, when I was home, she had the knife, Kelli, she had the knife in
I'm
her
so
hand. And
sorry.
when I saw it on the couch, it was like I immediately had a flashback to when she attacked me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I had family there to help get her off of me
Hmm.
when I was 15, 16 years old, when my mom attacked me. The fear of her doing something to me again still is with me
Hmm.
today, even
Yes.
though she hasn't done anything else to me. Um, but seeing the knife the other day made me think about it, and I'm taking heed to the warnings that my now friends also, should you continue to go there by yourself? Because I'm thinking,
No.
I gotta help my mom, she ain't gonna do that to
Right.
me. And But at the same time, I'm looking at her side eye because I don't know, because she's untreated.
Because you don't
She's
know.
untreated. And we
Hmm.
don't talk enough about untreated. We know
Right.
what needs to be done. Take the medication, have your appointments, work with the treatment team. My mom's not doing any of that right now. Any of
Does
it.
she just refuse to do it? She
Right.
just refuses. Okay.
And the way our laws are set up, people, we have our civil rights, and the civil
Yes.
rights is the right to not engage in medical treatment, right? We have some
Hmm.
people who decline uh, um, uh, for
Life
cancer,
support or
for
can't.
cancer and
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Chemotherapy.
People
Hmm.
refuse services all the time, but the difference with severe mental illness is being untreated, it can be dangerous.
Right.
So I
Absolutely.
hope I answered that question. Faith is
You
a
too.
number one thing. Prayer is a number one thing, but it also, in terms of people helping, people have helped when I wasn't expecting it, or thinking that they
Hmm.
would. And so having
Hmm.
people, sometimes it can't be family. Sometimes I can't be the one to directly help my mom. So you have to
Hmm.
know the resources in the community and be tapped into them. Keeping updated with the resources, because many of these organizations are funded. For example, with the government shutdown, if
That's right.
organizations aren't receiving the funds, then they can't operate at the local level. And you
Right.
may never understand this if you are not the one who needs these services.
Right. Right.
And one of the main spaces that are impacted by lack of federal funding are these community-based mental health organizations,
That's
because they
right.
receive federal funding that is funneled to the state, that then gives it to the local organizations.
That's right. And it's even 988 that needs funding.
Correct.
Millions of people have called and used it, and the person said it was invaluable when her son was having a challenge.
Correct.
Incredibly helpful. But to
Correct.
your point, it has to be funded. The
Correct.
federal government has to fund it, the states have to fund it, and there's still states that aren't funding it today.
Right.
But I do want to ask a question, and I want to first say your friends are right. Do not go by yourself. Have somebody with you, please, Corey, next time. And you did answer, I think, Nikki's question beautifully and showed with emotion. We can see it in your face and hear it in your voice, the adverse childhood experiences that you did face. And any human would face at 15 having to take care of your mother, and especially with schizophrenia. And that's a lot. So I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that and being honest about how hard that must have been. And I also wanted to ask you about guardianship, because both for we've talked about the importance of guardianship with our elders, but
Mhm.
also with our adult
Yeah.
children. And
Yeah.
so can you talk about that? I just went through this with both, and um it was, took some work, but I'd like for you to share why that's so important, and then how can people do that if you believe it's important.
Absolutely. There's a guardian for my mother, just another layer
Hmm.
of support. But my mom, is not necessarily engaging with her either right now. But guardianship or conservativeship, it may be called in your jurisdiction, can be a very useful resource in terms of
Hmm.
the legal authority that you can continue to have over your child after they turn 18, the legal age
Yes.
of consent in most situations, unless the age of 21 is required. So it is important to know what the criteria is in your area. Talking to a lawyer who does, whether it's in probate court or just
Hmm.
estate planning and things of that nature. But if
Hmm.
you're able to have guardianship, and it doesn't have to be you. I know we may think it needs to be us, and we want to make sure our child is taken care of, but the most effective path forward may not be having you as the caregiver, because of some of the strain that happens with dealing with a mental health condition and a loved one. Many
Mm-hmm.
times it is you that is the source of their
Mm-hmm.
um, negative
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, their hallucinations and delusions. At least
Mm-hmm.
it is for me. I can be
Yes.
the subject of that. And it's helpful to have a person who is not related to your loved one be serve as the guardian. But really the guardian's role is limited. You know, there's still laws. They can't necessarily just go,
Right.
you know, involuntarily commit your child into treatment and things of that nature. There are hearings before the court, and accountability to the court. They're the eyes and ears for the court, for your loved one who needs a guardian. They're not in the
Mm-hmm.
position to make decisions on their own. And
Mm-hmm.
you have this legal tool to be able to make
Mm-hmm.
decisions on behalf of your loved one.
Mm-hmm. And I think for me, I hadn't heard that thought about having someone else do
Mhm.
it. But and in your situation, I think that makes such sense, such great sense because you're the cause or you're some of the reason for some of the behavior with your mom. With our children, um, one of our guests talked about the importance of being able to see medical records. If something
Mhm.
were to happen, there was some sort of crisis or incident, their 30-year-old son, the hospital wouldn't let her see any of the records and talk to him about her experience with his previous medication. And he
Mhm.
was on some things that she was like, that's not going to work. That's a disaster. He is not, these kinds of things. And they would never let her see the medical records of that, from a child perspective or an adult child after they're 18. That seems like a really good idea for an adult,
Yes.
a parent. It doesn't have to be the mom, it could be the dad, or it could be another person. In my case, it was important for me to be able to have that. So if something were to happen with Kyle or Chris, praise God, I hope it doesn't,
Yeah.
but I would be able to communicate with the doctors and the hospitals and know fully what was going on. Is
Right.
that the case for you? And do you see that?
Yeah, that's a very great strategy in terms of being
Hmm.
able to assist in that way. I've always been involved with my mom's treatment team. I've requested
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
and they've been through the years willing to allow me to do that. And you know, there's always someone that's willing to do a little extra, tell you something
Hmm.
without telling you something, so that you can know
Yes.
what you can do in the event, you know,
Yes.
your loved one is in the is hospitalized and they haven't signed, you know, any consent forms yet,
That's
and you
right.
don't have a guardianship established yet. Communicating with people goes a long way. But then you do have those
That's
that
right.
who I call employees of the month, where they just everything is by the book and they won't
That's
let you,
right.
and they just won't
Right.
let you.
That's right. They
Yeah,
won't bend, they won't share, but
yeah,
there's so many angels out
yeah,
there that
yeah,
will say on the side, hey, make sure they sign this paper because
yeah.
otherwise the state was going to have control and you have no control. I do
Right.
think, and you mentioned something really important. You mentioned probate versus estate planning. And I think, probate is a whole thing after one passes away, which we all are going to at some point. But doing it as part of an estate plan, that was my strategy recently to say, hey, to my grown children. I'm trying to get my house in order, in essence. I'm trying to get my papers in order. And and I'm making sure that you both are in my plan. And I need you to talk to this person. So I didn't do anything illegal or bad, but I said, I need you to speak to this attorney so they can explain what I'm trying to do. And if
Mhm.
you are okay with it, I need you to sign these papers. And they
Mhm.
both were like, okay, because who wouldn't want to have everything straightened out? And the attorney was very clear. This is what, you'll be signing if this is okay with you. And also like, your wishes, your wishes so that you have it written down and somebody can act on your behalf. So I think when you mentioned estate planning and doing it while we're alive,
Mhm.
that is important too.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I have found it helpful to consider a trust, because with that, we may not be able to have our children take care of our affairs. And if you have things in a trust and a named trustee, whether it's an attorney or a company that can do the things you want done, that's something to consider. Main thing, just having
Yes,
somebody that's responsible and that would execute according to what
that's right.
you have in your trust. So it's
That's right.
important, even for example, with my mother. I thank God that I was able to purchase a home for her. This was a way
Yes.
to eliminate the eviction uh,
Mm,
journey that
yes.
she's been on for some time. She has a very long eviction history. And as our children grow up and they, get their own places, depending on their health or what they may ultimately get into, they could be in a situation of facing eviction if they're,
Hmm.
for example, untreated mental health conditions are causing
Right.
them to have behaviors that violate the lease. And so
Yes.
what do you do? Well,
Right.
there is a mortgage through the Fannie Mae.
Hmm.
They call it the family mortgage. I think it's called the family mortgage. I can get that name,
Hmm.
the exact
Okay.
name for you. I did post about it before. But through this, it's a lower interest rate, and you're able to purchase a home without having to live in it because it's not an
Hmm.
investment property for an adult child or a parent who is not able to get a mortgage in their own name. So it's a
Wow.
resource that is still available, and that is how I was able to get a home for my mother to be able to live in without it being an investment property. And I knew in purchasing this home that
That's
she would very
mhm.
likely tear it up, which is what is happening.
Wow.
But ultimately, she's safe, right? Like
She's
I'm looking
safe
at
and
the
she's
bigger
not
picture.
homeless. She's not
She's safe.
homeless.
Yeah.
That's a blessing. I did not know about that. A
But an
family
important part of
mortgage.
it was
Hmm.
there we have to be aware of what's going on like in this country, and unfortunately people are like stealing deeds. I don't know if any of you have heard about that, but it's so
No.
easy to transfer a deed. Like someone could, and if they go through the process of mailing notices court hearings, I would never know if mail was sent to the house where my mom is. So what
Mm,
I've recently done is to transfer the deed into a LLC, and then the LLC transfer the
yes,
deed into a trust. Extra layers of protection, so that with an LLC, you have a statutory agent who is to receive notices, like legal notices.
that's right.
So it can't
That's
just
right.
go to the house where my mother is, and I would never get the mail. It has to go to the statutory agent. Then I would know, if there is some kind of proceedings going on that is involving
Right.
the property that I may not
And you put the
otherwise know.
property into a trust in with which was into an LLC.
Hmm.
Yes, that's super important too. So it doesn't get tied up in any sort of probate court
Correct.
after. Yeah, that's
Correct.
awesome. I didn't know. I put in the chat fanniemae.com and Family Mortgage to do more research on that.
Hmm.
There's also, I looked up Family Mortgage, their sites, but I don't know if they're legitimate. And we all know
Oh
fanniemae.com
yeah.
is legitimate. So
Well,
I'll put
Huntington
that in
Bank
there.
is for sure one that had it. That's who I had it with.
Okay,
Huntington
awesome.
Bank. Hmm.
Awesome. Well, I know we just have a few more minutes. I wanted to make sure that if anybody has a question or a comment for you, they have an opportunity to do so. So if they're on the phone, if you're on the phone, you want to hit *6. Some people are always on their way to church, and that's wonderful. So if you want to hit *6 to ask a question, or you can come off of mute. Here, if you do have a question, Corey, do you consult with people or provide support for people who might want to engage your services around all of this caregiving for and the sandwich generation specifically? And can you share that information?
Sure. Yes, I'm building more and more in terms of strategies and helping people like real life situations. Because
Yes.
A lot of things are just so fluff, and I'm like, the fluff is not helping me.
No. And that's what's so deep about you and so beautiful about you. And that's what our space is about. We have people here like yourself with real lived experiences. And so people say, versus like you said, the surface. No, what's the real? How do I
Mhm.
get help from my situation? And that's what
Mhm.
you've shared in just the short 50 minutes we've been on the phone. You have so many amazing. So anyway, please finish. How can
Mhm.
people work with you or hire you or get consulting support, etc.?
Sure. So CoreyEmpowers.com is my website, and people are able to communicate with me directly by calling 330-452-9937. I receive like DMs a lot for people who see my post and just want to talk to somebody about, because they don't know what to say. They may be ashamed, maybe seeing it for the first time, seeing it in their children and trying to help their children to navigate this. And then, once the child is transitioning into adulthood, it could just be complicated. And so what do you do? So I
Yes,
have different resources. One, my go-to mental health guide that has just so many organizations and platforms that you could just through the AAA strategy, learn for yourself. In a part of your acknowledgement, you have to learn, research more so that you
hmm
can understand uh,
yes,
what is happening with your child, with your family member, your loved one, and what you could do about it. The organizations that are out there that we may have never
yes,
heard of, and
that's
not
right.
being ashamed to use the services that they have. NAMI was a tremendous
Yes,
invaluable asset in my life, and I would have never known about it. My aunt saw a ad in the newspaper and put it in my mailbox one day when I was at work, and that's how I learned about the family to family course. And at that time it was 12 weeks. Now it's only
yes,
8 weeks, and it can be virtual. So I just encourage you to, and it's all confidential and it's free. It's free, and it is so
and
so
they
helpful.
have yes, they have the
Mhm.
national organization and they have local chapters all over the
Correct.
country. So it's
Correct.
NAMI.org. I just put it in the chat as well,
Mhm. And,
and
and
they're
we may not think
phenomenal.
that these things are helpful, but if anything, it lets you know about other organizations that, may be tailored to exactly what you're dealing with your children. Because, children as young as infants have been
That's right.
diagnosed with a mental health condition. And it's
That's
best
right.
to do it early. Early detection is so helpful. It wasn't
That's right.
until I moved to DC, I've been there now 3 years, that I had this deep conversation with my mom's brother. My grandmother was 14 when she had my mom, and she had
Wow.
2 children by the age of 17, my mom and her brother. My
Mm,
uncle just shared with me his perspective. I never knew. He was the one in the home with my
wow.
mom. And basically, she was
Wow.
terrible as a child. So I just
Hmm.
think about, what if my mom had received treatment as a child? What if she was
That's
able to
right.
go to the doctor as a child and have
That's
these
right.
behavior issues or whatever she was exhibiting addressed at that time? She may have been on
Right.
a better path to healing and
Yes.
acceptance of treatment and things of that nature. But I would have never
That's
known
right.
that piece of history without talking to my uncle and his firsthand accounts of things that
Yes.
were going on with my mom.
I love that. And that's about asking questions. That's another A. But really acknowledging is asking questions about our family, which we don't
Yeah.
do.
Family
And
history.
then,
Yeah.
yes, the family history, acceptance. You're an incredible advocate. And so
Mhm.
I encourage everybody to reach out to Corey. It's CoreyEmpowers.com. That's in the chat.
Yes.
Corey Minor Smith.
And
And her
I'm
phone.
sorry.
Go ahead, please. You go ahead.
I just
Please,
want to
Corey.
share also, because
Please.
again, going back to the question that was asked, like, what do you do, sis? What do you do
Yes.
for real, though? And
Yes.
for real,
Yes.
I had to learn how to pause. And I just did a presentation for a group in Ohio. And I promise you, after leaving that presentation, I was like speaking to myself. I went and made this t-shirt, and it's like permission to pause. And if you're like me, very goal oriented and rule oriented that you just follow the
Yeah.
rules. You're so compliant. You probably relied on a permission slip when you were in school. Like if you to go to the bathroom,
Yes.
you had to get a permission slip. So I created this t-shirt that's like a permission slip on the t-shirt saying permission to pause. I have to give
Yes.
myself permission to pause because I'm just go, go, go because I got to do this, this,
Yes.
this, this, and I don't have time to take a break. I don't have time to sit
Yes.
and journal and listen to no water
Yes.
sounds. I don't have time for it because I got stuff to do. But what I have learned, and now that I'm in my 50s, you can just
Yes.
calm down. Like and
Yes.
take a moment to pause, whatever that means to you. It don't mean you have to go
Yes.
to some luxurious spa or go on a island vacation or a
Mhm.
cruise. Sometimes you just need to sit down,
That's
drink
right.
some water. I was so
That's right.
happy like when I first learned how to navigate through Netflix. Take those little small wins
Yes. Yes. Those
and
small wins.
appreciate them, you know,
Uh-huh.
with the permission
Permission
to
to
pause.
pause is fantastic. And it
Yeah.
could be, like you said, it could be closing our eyes and taking a breath, a few
Yes.
breaths for a minute.
Kelly, I will share this. I know we're over time, but let me just share this real quick. That is so
Please.
important. Breathing. That sounds so simple, taking the moment to breathe. But what I found that was happening to me, I was literally not breathing. I would stop
Hmm.
breathing and not realize it. And it's like, Corey, now come on now, we got to breathe or we'll die.
Hmm.
But there are
Hmm.
moments of time that you could literally stop breathing because you're so anxious or just too much is on your mind and you don't even
Hmm.
realize it. So
That's
one
right.
simple thing, I was doing my hair with my best friend. She was visiting me. We were both in the mirror doing our hair. And what I had described to her so many times over the
Hmm.
phone actually happened. I stopped breathing. How do I know I stopped breathing?
Wow.
Because like gasped for air all of a sudden. And she was able
Wow.
to witness it in person. So I'm just
Wow.
encouraging people I think it was Nikki that asked the question, pause. Give
Hmm.
yourself permission to pause. It helps you think
Hmm.
clearly. It helps you just take a moment to reset. It helps you to just
Hmm.
pause and breathe.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I was breathing as you were doing that and sharing. And I want to just say thank you so much. You are always so beautiful and wise and helpful and gracious to share your story so honestly and vulnerably. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you when I'm back in DC.
Yes.
And I will turn it over to Dr. Vicky. But really, thank you for all the gems this morning, Corey. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity and the share. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good morning. Thank you, Corey,
Good
so much
morning.
for being here. Thank you, Kelly. And again, as always, we appreciate our executive director, DSAP, as well. God, we thank you for another day, another reminder to pause, to breathe. You even advocate for us to slow down. In your word, you admonish us to be still and know that you are God and to stand still and see your salvation in our lives. So thank you for this moment to possess our souls with patience, because in our patience, God, we're able to receive clarity and courage and confidence. Thank you for Corey and her testimony. Your word says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. So thank you for her overcoming journey, that she is now able to turn her pain into power to inspire, help, equip, and encourage others with her story of resilience. God, thank you for her life. Thank you for her work. Thank you for her ability and capacity to care for her mom and her children and to be an example to us in the sandwich generation that all things are possible and that no thing is impossible when we do it with you through faith. We pray now as we go forward into this day that we will pause, we will breathe, we will remember to breathe in between the moments that seem to take our breaths away. God, we thank you for this community and every mother, every father, every household that is represented on this call. Thank you for Kelli and her determination and commitment to this work and to this community, the SonRise Project, the Sunday support community. We give you glory for all of the wisdom that has been poured into us again today. And we pray now in advance with a spirit of gratitude that you'll bring us back together on next Sunday for session number 300, God. We don't take that for granted, that Kelli's been faithful for 5+ years. And that next Sunday for session number 300, we will show up with excitement. Remind us to invite someone else to be blessed as well. And we give you again glory, thanks, and praise for all these things. In your name we pray. Amen. Have a
Amen.
powerful day, everyone.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Vicky. Thank you, Corey.
Thank
Yes, have a
you.
beautiful day.
You
Take care,
too.
everyone. Bye.